just 10 things. I'll burn through them really quickly, and then we can address some of the other issues that are up on the board, and I'll let Bill and Patrick and Adam and Doug talk. But I just never fill out that press@acme.com email address. Like, fill out this form. Who are you from? What's your question about? What level executive would you like to talk to? Because usually they don't respond by the deadline, or usually you get like some junior person who doesn't really know how to work with the media calling you back and asking you the same questions again. It's just like ridiculous bureaucracy. So just to go back to that, have like an actual person's name that a reporter or blogger should call if they want to write about you, an actual person's phone number and email address, because sometimes it's the Wall Street Journal reporter and it's 5 minutes to 6 and they're finishing that story, and if they could call you on the phone it would be great, but the email back in 15 minutes doesn't do them any good. A response speed, again, like a lot of journalists, this isn't quite as true with bloggers, but I have found myself in situations as a blogger where I want to post something and I'm writing about a particular trend or dynamic and I need some kind of comment or some kind of detail to add into the blog post, and you just can't get a hold of the person. You get their voicemail, they don't return the call. With blogs, it's a little bit better than traditional media because you can always go in and say, update, Diane did call me back and here's what she told me. But how many people have looked at that blog post before the update was added? So you'd be surprised at how many people just think of a media call as like, I'll just put that on the bottom of my call list after the customer calls, after the partner calls. And it's just silly when someone calls you back and like, hey, I know you called me last week. Are you still working on this article? Like, you shouldn't ever ask that question because 98% of the time the answer is no, I'm not working on the article anymore. This is just my thing is, I think a lot of Web 2.0 companies don't tell you where the company is based. And so if you're a reporter at the Arizona Republic and you're writing about the Web 2.0 or digital media trend in Arizona, you want to find Arizona companies to write about. And so a lot of Web 2.0 companies will just have someone's cell phone number or just an email address. They have no location information about where they actually are. Geez, you could be doing anything. You could be doing a story about this conference and you want to talk to some companies that might be coming to this conference. So let me start looking for companies in Burlington and Woburn and Cambridge. And if you don't have information about that, you don't fit into any locally related stories, which is a real problem.
Scott, can I just interject
Yeah.
too? One of the things that we're seeing right now, whether it's social media, digital media, or even traditional media, everybody's so fragmented and so national, so global, that everybody is actually trying to be more geographic. So if you don't admit where you're located, you're missing an opportunity to be as deep as you can be about where you're at. I mean, if you can't make good connections in your own neighborhood, whether it's Kendall Square or Burlington, I don't know what this sort of national reputation you're driving at is going to get you.
So all PR is local.
Yeah, and actually to build on that, I mean, there are a lot of Web 2.0 companies where it's like 2 people, and one is in San Francisco and one is in Boston. Like, let people know that. I mean, it kind of doubles the chances. The San Francisco Chronicle can write about you and the Globe can write about you. So number 4 is bios. A lot of people, their company bio is like, I'm working for Pixely and here's what we do, and they don't mention, before that I worked at Microsoft and Sun and Google, and a lot of times reporters want to talk to former, Google employees, former iRobot employees. They're looking for some perspective on the industry that you used to work for, or the company that you used to work for. So don't focus just on your current thing. Geez, sometimes it might be looking for alums of, the MIT Aeronautical Engineering Department. Is something that I'm working on right now. Like, mention everything you can in your bio. Longer is better, particularly if it's on the web, where space is not. Patrick, did you want to object to that?
No.
Okay. I think too much media training can be bad. And feel free to push back on this, but a lot of times you ask someone like, who's your biggest competitor? And they'll say, our biggest competitor is complacency. Or our biggest competitor is,
there's no real head-to-head.
Is time.
We don't have any.
It's some BS that like, why am I wasting the time talking to you if you're not going to give me a real answer? Like, it's useful for reporters if you say like, well, we have one big competitor and one small competitor, and here's who they are.
It's incredible. It is incredible. It's incredible that 90% of the people we talk to say, what makes us so great is we have no competition. It's like everybody has competition. So I mean, and then that all speaks to transparency. Like, if you can't be transparent with a reporter, there's no way that reporter's going to get the real information out because you haven't given them enough to work with.
Yeah.
And
there's no context.
The fear, though, is that you're going to call our competitor.
No.
On them.
But Diane, here's the issue. Reporters are writing about trends. And the chance of them writing about you as a standalone piece is slim to none. If you can actually mention your competition, but differentiate your company relative to the competition, you're helping the reporter by providing them with a full story.
Yeah.
And they're going to call them anyway. We're going to call your competitor anyway. So if you proceed as and sort of set the context, like Bill said, set the context for the conversation that we then have with your competitor, you're going to come out a lot better than if you leave it to us.
If you're able, Diane, if you're able to say, this is why we're different than Mazinga, that's helping out the reporter. It's sort of leading the witness in a way. I mean, why wouldn't you want to? And
Patrick is really good about this. I mean, a lot of times a story will get written because you can say, hey, Patrick will say, I'm representing a new video game company. There are also 7 other video game companies doing the same stuff, and so this is a trend of, massively multiplayer online gaming appealing to women, and suddenly that becomes a story because it's about more than one company. So in a way, I think that over media training and not being sort of authentic can be really bad. A lot of times, particularly at big companies, I'll be interviewing an executive, and after 15 minutes, it's like, this person is not going to give me a single quote that I can use because every answer is so processed and so sort of craft, American cheese that they're just not going to say anything interesting. I mean, sometimes taking a dig at a competitor, Scott McNeely from Sun got so much play because he would bash competitors, and he was honest about, look, I think these guys are wrong and we're right, and here's why. And it might not be your strategy, but it does work, I think. Just to get through the rest of these.
But that strategy has to be a comfortable strategy.
Yeah. I don't think you should be
part of the DNA
and combative if you're
unless
not
you are.
Yeah. So a lot of times, background or off the record help. A lot of times a company will say, look, we're in stealth mode, or we're in the quiet period, or for some other reason I can't talk to you right now, I don't want to contribute to that story. It's always an option to say to the reporter or the blogger, look, you can't quote me, and you obviously need a trusting relationship. You can't quote me on this, but I can help you either quote me anonymously as an industry source, or you can't quote me at all, but I'll tell you what's going on in this space, and here are the competitive dynamics, and this company is about to go out of business, this company is raising another venture round. Like, I think that builds relationships with reporters. The next time you come to them and you say, like, hey, we have a new product coming out, or we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z, or we just rented a new headquarters, they're more likely to write about you because, it's very much a, I think maybe, Doug, I'm wrong, but like a lot of reporters remember, oh, you helped me out on this story, I'm going to be more favorable to you when I get that next press release.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so don't say, sorry, I can't tell you anything about that story. There's always an opportunity to say, I can't talk to you, but call so-and-so, they'll be a great source. So, do something. It's interesting, photos, I think a lot of media, whether they're bloggers or newspapers, you just don't have the money to send a photographer out to, shoot a picture of, you working with the robots in an orange grove. It would be great to shoot that picture. You go to the website and all they have is the traditional headshot of, you're in a suit and tie and you're smiling, and no one wants to use that picture. So I think if you can afford to have someone shoot some non-traditional photos of, like, here we are playing ultimate frisbee, or here we are with a product, or sort of photos that bloggers and print are going to want to use, they'll tend to use them a lot. You'll be surprised. Versus, I don't know, aside from kind of conferences.
Well, and don't get those pictures of people sitting in front of computers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, aside from conferences, when you're going to go speak at Mobile Internet World or whatever, no one wants to use the traditional headshot of you, in a nice suit.
Yeah, can I just add to that, I think a lot of times people think that it's okay just because they'll read like Mass High Tech where you see those headshots. Can I just, as an editor, assure you, we use them out of desperation because we need to have some kind of photo because it makes for a decent page. But if I have a choice between a robot and an orange grove and a headshot, you're gonna get twice as much space in the paper and online because you gave us a decent photo. And Scott's right. I mean, we have a photographer, but we can't send them everywhere. Yeah. So I mean, ideally, you're supplying us with good photos and not photos from your mobile phone that isn't isn't going to work in print in print and on.
And you're going to need those photos for your VC pitches too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, there are some great websites where it's like they have a zillion different resolutions and a zillion different photos, and there's no password protection of you have to call the company to get access to the